Hi everyone. Probably while watching this episode, you have a Palestinian who live in your country. Yes, Palestinians left Palestine long time ago. They have been leaving Palestine for more than 70 years. But did it come to your mind? Why did this happen to Palestine only out of all the countries in the world? And why did they choose Palestine to take over out of all the Arab countries in the Middle East? Let's go back to a bit of history about it. Israel is the name of the prophet Jacob. So Prophet Jacob, his name is Israel, and he is known to be the father of prophets. And he is from the sons of Israel, because the sons of Israel go back to this prophet who lived in Egypt. Now the sons of Israel lived in Egypt. Most of the prophets came from sons of Israel. But the case here is, sons of Israel themselves killed all the prophets that God sent to them. Yes, there was a saying that they used to kill 2 prophets every day. Prophets and messengers were all killed brutally by the people of Israel, and they never believed in any prophet. Until we get to Prophet Moses. Some of them believed with Prophet Moses and ran away with Moses from the Pharaoh and his army. And we all know the story of the Pharaoh and his army and what happened in the river and how they sank and how the people survived with Prophet Moses. And Prophet Moses is from the sons of Israel, and the sons of Israel are those who believed in him. Few of them. But the case here is that after they survived, they went to the Sinai desert. There they still asked Moses for proofs of God's existence. So they still didn't completely believe in Moses. After God proved to them time and time again that he exists and he took care of them and he sent them food, they still didn't believe in God completely. They still doubted Moses after everything that happened to them. Until God gave his verdict, his own decision. He told the sons of Israel, the Jews, don't ever leave Sinai desert in Egypt, that you have to live there and die there. So they lived, they had their own life in that desert. Prophet Moses kept teaching them about the religion, and they all accepted this from God. They all accepted this verdict from God. And they lived in Sinai desert and died there. But the people who supposedly believed in Moses stayed there. Their own kids weren't subjected to the same judgment. So everybody died, but their own kids survived. Now the kids believed in the word of God, and they said, we have to leave the land since we are able to leave the land, but also the judgment of the God that they should spread through the world and they should never be united again in one land. So they accepted this as Jews, as believer of Judaism and Moses. They left scattered through the world. That's why you have Jews everywhere. That's what God wanted from them, based on what they did, as a punishment. And they understood why they should do this, because if they come together, they're going to create problems. After a while, they noticed that they are hated by the European. And here is where the term came, anti-Semitism. The anti-Semitism here is the hatred towards the sons of Sam, son of Prophet Noah. Now Arabs and Jews, the sons of Israel, are the sons of Sam. So if I am being accused with anti-Semitism, how can I hate myself? I have the same origin as them. Here we come to the hatred of the European Christian to the Jews and started killing them. One of the most famous events and atrocities committed towards Jews is the Holocaust. But there were other atrocities committed towards the Jews before the Holocaust. Until we get to the early 1900s, where a man called Theodor Herzl noticed this, that Jews are hated everywhere and they are being mistreated everywhere. But through history, he read that Jews lived peacefully under the rule of Muslims. Whether they were in Spain, in the Muslim country, in any Muslim country, Jews managed to live and practice their own religion without any problems. And at that time, some of the Jews already lived in the Arab and the Muslim countries, and they lived as a minority. Yes, they were a minority, but they lived peacefully in Palestine, in Jordan, in Egypt, in a lot of Arab countries with no problems. And they even lived, through history, they even lived in Saudi Arabia along with the Prophet. In Medina, there were Jews living with him. So this case of mutual understanding and coexistence had no problem in the Islamic countries. So Theodor Herzl is the founder for Zionism. Now, as a Zionist, he had an idea that Jews cannot live with other people and they shouldn't live with other races because they are a better race. So he wanted to make Zionism that's focused on the pure blood of the Jews and transferred the Jewish religion into a racist religion. So the word Jew for them turned into a race instead of turning into a religion. So any Jew who was born a Jew, especially if their mother is a Jew, can become a Zionist. And he wanted to collect all the Jews in one place. And he wrote in his book that he thought of Palestine or Argentine to collect them together. Now, in this book, he put the thoughts of this country or that country, and this gives me a kind of idea. How did you come to believe that Palestine is the suitable place for you to collect all the Jews to live there? And why did you then think of Argentine? And why did you think of coming back to Egypt in the first place? All of that before the First World War. Now the world was occupied with the First World War and the Second World War, so he had nothing to do. After the World War, he came to tell the people, the Zionists, Theodor Herzl and his friends both made the Zionism. Zionists believed that they wanted to collect all the Jews in the world and gather them in one place. Now the idea of Palestine resurfaced when they modified something in the Old Testament and the New Testament to tell people that Palestine is the land where they should gather and live. But why did he decide on Palestine to begin with? Here we come to the idea when he thought and believed that Muslims would receive Jews to live with them and coexist. He said, I can trick the Muslims into getting all the Jews under the Ottoman Empire and at the same time, bit by bit, work towards gathering the Jews in one place so we make our own kingdom. But when he went to Turkey, the Ottoman Empire, under the rule of Abdul Hamid II understood his own motivation and knew from his reading to history and religion that Jews are going against the idea. He didn't know the idea of Zionism, but he knew that Jews shouldn't be in the same place. He kicked them out, telling them, you can go to any place, I'm okay with that, but I'm not giving you Palestine. When Theodor Herzl asked why, Abdul Hamid II said, Palestine is a very sacred place for Muslims. And you have to take the permission of every single Muslim to go live there and take it and make it your own kingdom. Especially that in Palestine, some Jews lived there as a minority, some Christians lived there, and Muslims lived there. And they were all Arabs. So the Jews who lived in the Arab countries have nothing to do with the Jews who lived in Europe. But he wanted to collect the Jews who lived in Europe, who lived in Russia, who lived in America, all in one land. Theodor Herzl planned to defame the Ottoman Empire in the eyes of the Arabs. So the Arabs shared in what we call freedom from the Ottoman Empire, but at the same time it was a destruction of the Ottoman Empire. And he took it as a chance to start applying his plan to go into Palestine. So he wrote in the books and he wrote in the Bible and the Old Testament that Palestine is the promised land. And he said that God always fulfills his promises. So he went to Europe and he went to England in particular and said, give us Palestine, because England was occupying Palestine and the other Arab countries. He said, give us Palestine, since you have control over the Arab countries, give us Palestine so I can gather all the Jews and live there, because we can't live in a place where we are hated and being hunted and killed all the time. Surprisingly, he got a promise from England to be transferred there. Saying this, he managed to collect money from Zionists, because Zionists at that time, they had money, they had gold, they had a lot of power and control. So they funded the war, especially before 1948, because before 1948 the British attacked Palestine because they wanted to make a place for Jews to go live in Palestine, but there are people who already live in Palestine, so they wanted to kill the people there, clean the area so Jews can come. Palestine is a safe country they have no army. They found themselves out of nowhere fighting the British army, the English fighting the English army. So the English were killing Palestinians and forcing a lot of them to travel. 300,000 Palestinians were killed, and more than 1 million Palestinians left Palestine before 1948, just as a preparation for the Jews to go to Palestine based on the plan the Zionists created, and Theodor Herzl paved the way to that. In the 1948, Jews led by the Zionists left Europe, especially after the Second World War and what happened with the Holocaust and what happened in the war itself. They said, we've had enough, we have to move on and go to Palestine, which is the promised land that God gave us. But why did He give them the land? Because they said in the Old Testament and the New Testament that this land would be theirs, so they have to rebuild their own kingdom based on the kingdom of King David. They believed in King David, they believed in his son King Solomon. That's what they said. That's what the Zionists say. The Zionists, who never believed in Judaism to begin with, who never believed in Jesus because they thought Jesus is the son of an adulteress. They say that in the Bible and the New Testament, which they don't believe in them as Zionists, there God promised them the land of Palestine to rebuild the kingdom of David, the prophet David. That's why they have their own star. They call it the Star of David. And that's why they believe in Solomon, because Prophet Solomon is the son of David. All of this in a tale of history that goes back no more than 2,000 years, because Jews existed in Palestine as a minority at the time of the Roman Empire, and the Roman Empire also kicked them out of Palestine. So after that, all that time from the Roman Empire till 1948, there was no existence of Jews as just a minority, some hundreds of them, who lived under the rule of the Ottoman Empire in Palestine. Even when the British came to invade, they started killing even Jews. So the Jews, Christian and Muslims who lived in Palestine were also murdered to clean the place for the Zionists to send Jews to Palestine. The English army found that the Jews came to Palestine. They told them, hey, wait, we are not ready to transfer you from Europe to here. We're not yet done, and we are not ready to give you the land, since England took control of a lot of the Arab countries, and one of them is Palestine, by the way. So there was a clash between Zionists and the English army, and they had a war inside Palestine. Now the Palestinians found themselves also in a war. They have nothing to do with it, but they are the ones who are being killed. So the war between Zionists, who claim to be Jews, and the English army, and the victims were the Muslims and Christians and Jews who lived in Palestine, the Palestinians. Now the Palestinians had to leave also, because in 1948 the English army said, we have to leave, we're done with that, we're fed up with it, do whatever you want. So European did not interfere in all of this. They left the Zionists to take over the land and ask for the Jews to come to live in Palestine. So in the 1948, Jews started, or let's call it Zionists, started killing anyone who is in Palestine and started calling Jews to come to Palestine. The Jews around the world never wanted to come back to Palestine because they believed and they were satisfied and they knew the wisdom behind the judgment of God, that they shouldn't regroup together and they shouldn't come together in one land. So they believed in this and they wanted to go live in their own life, and they saw Zionists as non-believer, because Zionists are not Jews. Zionists are not believers. They are racist people who wanted to gather Jews in one place and claim that land to rebuild what Prophet David had, because the prophet David, he was a king and he had a kingdom. They wanted to rebuild that kingdom in Palestine, thinking that this land is their own promised land by God. But how can they take a promised land from people? They have to kill them. Case here, the whole world turned a blind eye, looked the other way, and left Israel kill every single person in Palestine. They killed children, they raped women, they killed men, unarmed civilians, because that was a land with no army. So what do you think the Palestinian will do? Some of them will fight back, and when they fought back with stones, they fought back with knives. But the Israeli army, they killed those people with their weapons and arms. So this caused a lot of the Palestinians to leave the land. At the same time, they called Jews from around the world, and Jews around the world never wanted to come to Palestine. Some of them, yes, a minority, wanted to come to Palestine and live in Israel because they were hated and oppressed in Europe. So they left European countries and came to Palestine. So they lived in Israel and made that country thinking that they're going to live in peace and rebuild the kingdom of Prophet David again. But they were lied to, because in the Old Testament there is no mentioning that the Jews have to live in Palestine, but it was rewritten by the people. So they burned all the Old Testament and they wrote a new Old Testament, a new book for the Old Testament that includes Palestine as the land promised by God to them. But Israel wanted more people to come. The Zionists wanted more people from the Jews to come to Palestine, and they wanted pure blood Jews. They wanted Jews who have their ancestors as Jews, regardless where they are. So they issued a law calling people that you have the right as a Jew, son of a Jew woman, to come to live in Israel and claim the Israeli passport and nationality. Even though this happened, a lot of the Jews who are Arabs or European or Russian or American or whoever, wherever they are, they said, we are happy with where we are. We don't have to leave. Zionists planned terrorist attacks in other countries where Jews lived. So the Zionists killed a minority of Jews to convince the other Jews that the other country, the Arabs, the Christians, the Muslims, they hate you and they are the ones who attacked you. So you have to leave your land, you are in danger, and come to Israel. And that's how they collected a lot of Jews in Israel. So does Israel have Jews? Yes, but they are brainwashed. The basics is Zionism, and they call the world by the word guilty. They wanted everybody to feel guilty for the mistakes and the atrocities committed towards the Jews by the European. Even though that Arabs have nothing to do with it, they wanted to convince everybody that if you hate Jews, that's anti-Semitism, even though it came from Christians and Jews in Europe, have nothing to do with us Arabs, because anti-Semitism is against us because we are the sons of Sam, son of Noah, as Jews, sons of Sam, son of Noah. But they believe that they are a pure blood. They wanted to live with no one in this world. And by the way, even if right now I wanted to change my religion and convert into Judaism and wanted to be a Jew to go to Israel, they would receive me, but I would still be a third grade citizen. So I will be like a slave there. So they don't see us as humans. They don't see Arabs, they don't see Muslims, they don't see Christians as people or even respected human beings. This is what happened in Palestine. For more than 70 years, Jews were killing Palestinians and bringing Jews to the land. If you think of it this way, what would the Palestinians do? Are they going to leave their land for the Jews? And what type of kingdom the Jews are trying to build? Is it really the kingdom of Prophet David, the father of Prophet Solomon, who they claim to believe in? Because Zionists never claimed to believe in any God. They never claimed to believe in any prophet. And Israel says that Palestinians are the ones who are killing them because Palestinians have no history there. But Palestinians as Arabs and other races existed thousands of years ago. At least 3,000 before the great-grandfathers of the Zionists existed. Which make me believe that Palestinians have the right to hit back. What happened nowadays, why did this topic resurface? Why they have been killing people for 70 years and nobody paid attention? The United Nations never paid attention to Palestine at all through more than 70 years of killing innocent citizens. A lot of the Muslims in Palestine left their land in the 1950s, took their women and left to Jordan or left to other countries just because of this. That's because they are men of honor who wanted to protect their honor, protect their women, so they took them out of Palestine after what they saw of the atrocities committed by the Jews, especially that the Jews never believed in them being human beings. So when a Jew kills any other man, it's like killing a dog or a cat, so he thinks nothing of it. Things resurfaced again. Any Palestinian who tries to defend his land, the Zionists show him to the world as a terrorist. Anyone who wants to protect Palestine will be turned into a terrorist and would be called names like anti-Semitism and a hateful to Jews and a non-believer and someone who wants to spread terror in the entire world. All of this was planned by Zionists. So Zionism is a very racist movement that were separating Jews from any other race in the world, and they turned Judaism into a race more than a religion. How can they claim, as Netanyahu said in his interview with Jordan Peterson, he quoted from the Bible? How can someone like him who doesn't believe in the Bible and who sees Jesus as a son of an adulteress quote from the Bible? How rude is this man? Why did this all resurface? It's because Palestinians got to say their word. We're condemning the killing of innocent people and civilians, whether they are from Israel's side or from the Palestinian side. Israel is afraid. The Zionists are afraid that Israel is coming to an end because they have their own scripture that says that they're going to lose. And they have their own scripture that says there is a war coming at the end of life between Arabs and Muslims in particular and them. So there is a war in this sacred land. It resurfaced because they thought that the fall of Israel came so close. They closed all of Palestine. They never allowed the Palestinians to escape out of Palestine. And also the American forces came and stopped every single country in the world from coming into Palestine. So what happened is this. Israel stopped the Palestinians from leaving Palestine. And America stopped all the countries from interfering into Palestine, telling Israel, go kill as much as you want from Muslims in Palestine. We will stop all the world from coming in. And we stopped all the media, so nobody knows what happens. People think that on the land of Palestine there are two states fighting each other and that's it. Seriously, they did this. In the most densely populated place, they started attacking civilians. And at the same time, they are planning for one or two things. Either they are so scared because what happened shook the foundation of Israel, and that really happened. The second thing is, a lot of Israeli people believe that this is wrong, even though after they moved to Israel. Because last year, 25,000 Israeli people left Israel and went outside because they see that Israel is coming to an end. They see that they are liars, that they are not building even the kingdom of Prophet David. This is a big fat lie. So they left. Also, to prove that Israel is not going to fall, they prepare for a great massacre that we're going to hear about in no more than 1 week. Israel is planning to kill every single person in Palestine who's not Zionist. They say in some of the interviews that they want the civilians to come out of Palestine and go to Egypt and the Sinai desert to live there until they are done with the war with Hamas. And by the way, let's say a couple of days back, Zionists killed more than 70 people who wanted to leave, civilians who needed no war, who wanted no war. They just wanted to leave. They stopped them from leaving. Okay, what Hamas did, you as civilians are going to pay for it, and they want to kill every single person there. So are preparing, they are stopping, they cut water and electricity from Palestinians, so they can't ask for help, and at the same time they can't show anyone from the world what happens. And if you upload any episode or show any picture on social media regarding what happens in Palestine, it will be removed completely because they have control over the media, so nobody knows. And they are preparing themselves. They tell the Palestinians, no, you stay here, you have to die because we want to kill you. And the American army is telling the other countries, don't come into Palestine, let them fight and kill each other, and telling Israel, go kill as much as you want. We're facing people who have more than 270 nuclear missiles, fighting people with no army, killing civilians who are unarmed. And by the way, don't believe that Israel and Zionists would ever love or respect any of the Europeans or anyone in the other world, because they hate everybody and they never forgot what happened to them during all that time they lived in Europe. And you know that when you gave away to Zionists and Jews to live in Palestine in a state called Israel, it's because you are fed up with them and you don't want them to live with you. So this case, what you have done as European, to the sons of Israel is so bad, and we condemn it. Why do the Jews and the Zionists repeat the same atrocity to the people of Palestine? This is our message to the world. Through history, Muslims never refused the Jews to live between them as long as they are law-abiding citizens. They believed that we are a race different from all humanity, and we have to defame any Islamic country or any Islamic rule based on what happened in the Ottoman Empire. Until now, there are a lot of books written in Arabic also about the Ottoman Empire, so probably every Arab hates the Ottoman Empire. And the Turkish people hate the Arabs because of what the Arabs did against the Ottoman Empire in the Second World War. And the result is, look at the Arab countries. Look at Iraq, look at Lebanon, look at Palestine, look at all the Arab countries and what happens to them. The source of all evil are Zionists. This is the word that I wanted to tell you. I know this is dangerous. I know they might ban me. I know this episode might be deleted anytime. But I wanted to say this. If what happened to the Jews was really bad and we all condemn it, that doesn't give them the right to lie to the whole world and say that they have to build the kingdom of Prophet David, who have nothing to do with Jews, in a land called Palestine. They don't have to forge a new history for them that gives them the legitimate reason to go kill every single man, woman, kid. Even they destroyed churches and mosques to live there. This is the only thing I can say, because the word is important. News are important for you, because based on one lie, the American president said a 71-year-old man stabbed a 6-year-old boy who lives in America, who has nothing to do with Palestine, who has nothing to do with them, but he's an Arab Muslim, and said they should die. He stabbed the boy and he stabbed his mother after he heard what happened in Palestine, the lie that Palestinians rape women and kill children. Read the history, go back to the old maps, and you will find that these maps from 1800s and down, they call it Palestine, and there is no mentioning of Israel or any kingdom that has to do with Israel. And if you look deeply in the stories of Prophet Solomon and Prophet David, Jews never existed at that time. So how can they believe in a prophet that have nothing to do with them to be their own prophet? Thank you for watching this episode. This is all I have to say. This is my duty as a Muslim to say this. And if they claim what they say is truth, let them prove it.